The Lotus Sutra, Chapter 13, Encouraging Devotion. At that time, the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, Medicine King, along with the Bodhisattva and Mahasattva, Great Joy of Preaching, and 20,000 Bodhisattva followers who were accompanying them, all in the presence of the Buddha, took this vow, saying, "We beg the world-honored one to have no further worry. After the Buddha has entered extinction, we will honor, embrace, read, recite, and preach this sutra. Living beings in the evil age to come will have fewer and fewer good roots. Many will be overbearingly arrogant and greedy for offerings and other forms of gain, increasing the roots that are not good and moving farther away than ever from emancipation. But although it will be difficult to teach and convert them, we will summon up the power of great patience and will read and recite this sutra, embrace, preach, and copy it, offering it many kinds of alms and never begrudging our bodies or lives." At that time in the assembly, there were 500 arhats who received a prophecy of enlightenment. They said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, we too will make a vow. In lands other than this one, we will broadly preach this sutra." Also, there were 8,000 persons, some still learning, others with nothing more to learn, who received a prophecy of enlightenment. They rose from their seats, pressed their palms together, and turning toward the Buddha, made this vow. "World-honored one, we too in other lands will broadly preach this sutra." Why? Because in this Saha world, the people are given to corruption and evil, beset by overbearing arrogance, shallow in blessings, irascible, muddled, fawning and devious, and their hearts are not sincere. At that time, the Buddha's maternal aunt, the nun Maha Prajapati, and the 6,000 nuns who accompanied her, some still learning, others with nothing more to learn, rose from their seats, pressed their palms together with a single mind, and gazed up at the face of the honored one, their eyes never leaving him for an instant. At that time, the world-honored one said to Gautami, "Why do you look at the thus come one in that perplexed manner? In your heart, are you perhaps worrying that I have failed to mention your name among those who have received a prophecy of the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? But Gautami, I earlier made a general statement saying that all the voice hearers had received such a prophecy. Now, if you would like to know the prophecy for you, I will say that in ages to come, amid the law of 68,000 of millions of Buddhas, you will be a great teacher of the law, and the 6,000 nuns, some still learning, some already sufficiently learned, will accompany you as teachers of the law. In this manner you will bit by bit fulfill the way of the Bodhisattva until you are able to become a Buddha, with the name gladly seen by all living beings, thus come one, worthy of offerings, of right and universal knowledge, perfect clarity in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled worthy, trainer of people, teacher of heavenly and human beings, Buddha, world-honored one. Gautami, this gladly seen by all living beings Buddha will confer a prophecy upon these 6,000 bodhisattvas to be passed from one to another, that they will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. At that time, the mother of Rahula, the nun Yashodhara, thought to herself, "The world-honored one in his bestowal of prophecies has failed to mention my name alone." The Buddha said to Yashodhara, "In future ages, amid the law of hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, millions of Buddhas, you will practice the deeds of a bodhisattva. You will be a great teacher of the law and will gradually fulfill the Buddha way. Then, in a good land, you will become a Buddha named, endowed with 1,000, 10,000 glowing marks, thus come one, worthy of offerings, of right and universal knowledge, perfect clarity in conduct, well gone, understanding the world, unexcelled worthy, trainer of people, teacher of heavenly and human beings, Buddha, world-honored one. The lifespan of this Buddha will be immeasurable asamkhya kalpas. At that time, the nun Mahaprajapati, the nun Yashodhara, and their followers were all filled with great joy, having gained what they had never had before. Immediately in the presence of the Buddha they spoke in verse form, saying, World-honored one, leader and teacher, you bring tranquility to heavenly and human beings. We have heard these prophecies, and our minds are peaceful and satisfied. The nuns, having recited these verses, said to the Buddha, World-honored one, we too will be able to go to lands in other regions and broadly propagate this sutra. At that time, the world-honored one looked at the 800,000 million nayutas of bodhisattvas and mahasattvas. These bodhisattvas had all reached the level of avivartika, turned the unregressing wheel of the law, and gained dharanis. They rose from their seats, advanced before the Buddha, and pressing their palms together with a single mind, thought to themselves, if the world-honored one should order us to embrace and preach this sutra, we would do as the Buddha instructed, and broadly propagate this law. And then they thought to themselves, but the Buddha is now silent, and gives us no such order. What shall we do? At that time, the Bodhisattva, respectfully complying with the Buddha's will, at the same time wishing to fulfill their own original vows, proceeded in the presence of the Buddha to roar the lion's roar and make a vow, saying, World-honored one, after the thus come one has entered extinction, we will travel here and there, back and forth, through the worlds in the 10 directions, so as to enable living beings to copy this sutra, to receive, embrace, read, and recite it, understand and preach its principles, practice it in accordance with the law, and properly keep it in their thoughts. All this will be done through the Buddha's power and authority. We beg that the world-honored one, though in another region, will look on from afar and guard and protect us. We beg you not to worry. After the Buddha has passed into extinction, in an age of fear and evil, we will preach far and wide. There will be many ignorant people who will curse and speak ill of us, and will attack us with swords and staves. But we will endure all these things. In that evil age there will be monks with perverse wisdom and hearts that are fawning and crooked, who will suppose they have attained what they have not attained, being proud and boastful in heart. Or there will be forest-dwelling monks, wearing clothing of patched rags and living in retirement, who will claim they are practicing the true way, despising and looking down on all humankind. Greedy for profit and support, they will preach the law to white-robed laymen, and will be respected and revered by the world, as though they were arhats who possess the 6 transcendental powers. These men with evil in their hearts, constantly thinking of worldly affairs, will borrow the name of forest-dwelling monks and take delight in proclaiming our faults, saying things like this: these monks are greedy for profit and support, and therefore they preach non-Buddhist doctrines and fabricate their own scriptures to delude the people of the world. Because they hope to gain fame and renown thereby, they make distinctions when preaching this sutra. Because in the midst of the great assembly, they constantly try to defame us, they will address the rulers, high ministers, Brahmins, and householders, as well as the other monks, slandering and speaking evil of us, saying, these are men of perverted views who preach non-Buddhist doctrines. But because we revere the Buddha, we will bear all these evils, though they treat us with contempt, saying, you are all no doubt Buddhas. All such words of arrogance and contempt we will endure and accept. In a muddled kalpa, in an evil age, there will be many things to fear. Evil demons will take possession of others, and through them curse, revile, and heap shame on us. But we, reverently trusting in the Buddha, will put on the armor of perseverance. In order to preach this sutra, we will bear these difficult things. We care nothing for our bodies or lives, but are anxious only for the unsurpassed way. In ages to come, we will protect and uphold what the Buddha has entrusted to us. This the world-honored one must know. The evil monks of that muddied age, failing to understand the Buddha's expedient means, how he preaches the law in accordance with what is appropriate, will confront us with foul language and angry frowns. Again and again we will be banished to a place far removed from towers and temples. All these various evils, because we keep in mind the Buddha's orders, we will endure. If in the settlements and towns there are those who seek the law, we will go to wherever they are and preach the law entrusted to us by the Buddha. We will be envoys of the world-honored one, facing the assembly without fear. We will preach the law with skill, for we desire the Buddha to rest in tranquility, in the presence of the world-honored one, and of the Buddhas who have gathered from the 10 directions. We proclaim this vow. The Buddha must know what is in our hearts.